Okay. It's my pleasure to welcome you today to the UNDP UNFCCC launch of the online Article 6 capacity building course. I'm Alexandra Sörzer, Global Carbon Technical Advisor Energy, and I'm also managing UNDP's Carbon Payment for Development facility. We developed this online Article 6 capacity building course together with UNFCCC with generous funding from the State Secretariat for Economic Affairs Switzerland, and in partnership with the Swedish Energy Agency and the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, IGES, Japan, and with contributions from the Gold Standard and Sustain CERT. The two key objectives of the course are to provide government representatives, but also private sector, an overview of the requirements and implications of their participation in Article 6. And the second key objective is to equip technical staff in government with a robust understanding of the different policy, technical and process components required to operationalize Article 6 in their respective countries. I am joined today by William Otieno, UNFCCC, from left to right, UNFCCC Regional Lead for Eastern and Southern Africa, Simon Fellermeyer, Lead Negotiator Article 6, International Climate Policy in the Federal Office of the Environment, Switzerland, Niels Westling, Program Manager, International Climate Initiative at the Swedish Energy Agency, and Kentaro Takahashi, Deputy Director, Institute for Global Environmental Strategies in Japan. Please join me in welcoming our speakers today. But now, without further ado, we will show you a short trailer of our Article 6 course. Yeah, thank you. So I hope we could spark your interest. But now over to our first panelist, William. UNFCCC has been requested to provide capacity building to parties on Article 6. And may I invite you to tell us more about the rationale for an Article 6 online course from a UNFCCC perspective.
Thank you, Alexandra. Good afternoon, everybody. My fellow panelists, Alexandra, and our partners who we have worked with on this. It's a pleasure to be here today to do this groundbreaking, in my opinion, event where we're launching a tangible product on Article 6. All of us know that there has been so much that we have been waiting for on Article 6, and everybody has an idea of what it is, but I think this course will finally start putting things together and provide an opportunity where you can have a reference point to go and see what exactly is this Article 6. So the joint UNDP, UNFCCC Article 6 online capacity building and training course, which we're delivering in partnership with Switzerland, Sweden, and IGES, is designed around 6 training modules covering various topics that will set the scene for international collaboration within the frame of the Paris Agreement. It will further deep dive into other elements such as authorization, corresponding adjustments, regulatory framework, and institutional setup, including reporting to the UNFCCC. Hence, the importance of UNDP and the other partners collaborating with us so that we can sort of make sure that it fits into the process. The course is going to be a knowledge-sharing platform which is geared towards providing government representatives with a detailed overview and a good understanding of the requirements and implications of participation in cooperative approaches under Article 6.2 of the Paris Agreement and enable them to make decisions related to participation. It will also equip policymakers and technical staff with knowledge on different policy, technical, and process components required to operationalize Article 6.2 in their respective countries. Because this has been a question where after Kyoto, everybody has been asking, so what next and how do we do it next? All this is actually based on a party-driven process. So in Glasgow, the CMA requested the Secretariat through the regional collaboration centers and in consultation with the supervisory body to design and implement, in consultation with parties, a capacity building program to assist parties wishing to voluntarily participate in the Article 6 mechanism. Following this request from the COP, the Secretariat, in collaboration with all the RCCs, we have 6 RCCs in different regions, so jointly we conducted virtual regional dialogues. For Africa, we did this around the 10th of May this year, and we targeted UNFCCC national focal points, CDM designated national authorities, DNAs, and the dialogues helped us to explore the capacity building needs from those countries so that this becomes a party-driven process where they give us their needs and we structure the course based on what the needs are. We also then ran a survey where we asked the different stakeholders what exactly were the points or the places or the issues that they needed us to address in this training. So the survey built on the dialogues so that we could devise a work program that meets the needs of the parties to the Paris Agreement in an adequate and timely manner on capacity building needs related to Article 6.2 and 6.4. The findings from the survey on Article 6 capacity building needs indicate that countries listed as their priorities require assistance in some of the following areas: development of institutional arrangements in relation to authorization of ITMOS, managing corresponding adjustments, technical capacity to design and set baselines, and robust reporting. So with those few remarks, I hope that when we look at the modules that are going to be presented in this session, we think we have covered most of the needs that we have identified from the countries, and we believe that once the course is launched, there will be a lot of interest to be able to follow and get a better understanding of Article 6. Thank you.
Thank you, William, for giving us this broader context and the history of how it all evolved. I will give you now a short overview of the 6 modules of the course and their learning objectives. So Module 1 is an introduction to Article 6 of the Paris Agreement, specifically on Article 6.2. It introduces the concept of voluntary cooperation to achieve the NDCs and promote higher ambition in climate actions. In Module 2, participants will gain an understanding of the benefits and the risks of participating in Article 6, and it explains also the participation requirements and obligations. In Module 3, the audience will learn about the relationship between NDC and potential mitigation activities under Article 6.2 and how to ensure cooperative approaches go beyond the NDC commitments of the transferring party. The audience will also learn about the different roles of government in facilitating Article 6 activities, as well as the role of the private sector. This module further elaborates on the need to preserve environmental integrity and the safeguards that an Article 6 cooperative approach can put in place to ensure them. Module 4 explains the key issues countries may want to address prior to the authorization of the transfer of mitigation outcomes. Participants will also gain an understanding into the establishment of authorization procedures, registry needs, and the concept of corresponding adjustments. In Module 5, participants will learn about the processes and institutional setup required for the operationalization of cooperative approaches, procedural arrangements, and administrative services related to the project cycle. The module also explains how the regulatory and institutional framework for Article 6.2 can be integrated into existing national frameworks. The last module, 6, will provide a high-level overview of the reporting requirements for countries engaged in Article 6.2 activities. It introduces the enhanced transparency framework and the information to be included in the Article 6 initial report, related information in the biannual transparency report, and information to report annually to UNFCCC. Each module will take approximately 1 hour to complete, and we will also issue a certificate of completion, and this will require the participants to complete a total of 6 quizzes, 1 after each module, pass a final test which tests the understanding of the content presented, and complete a course satisfaction survey. But now I turn to our next panelist, Simon. Article 6 capacity building is relevant in the context of Article 6 negotiations. May I invite you to the podium to tell us how parties expect to become ready for Article 6 implementation.
Hey, good afternoon. So let me start by making a reference to, I always thought that the negotiation room is the only place where you can't hear each other because the AC is so loud. But in fact, just the amount of people here. So yeah, I think, please let me know if you can't understand me, then yeah, great. So, yeah, I'm Simon from Switzerland. We have financed this course. Not my ministry, but another ministry, and we are very happy about this. Let me start by... Hey, so what's going on? Like, where's the show here? They're taking selfies. But that's fine, that's fine. So, let me start by saying, or by explaining why I look potentially a little bit tired. And that is because I come straight out of the Article 6 negotiation room, and that room is pretty complicated and pretty long. There's lots of stuff to figure out. And if we acknowledge that this is hard for, well, parties here, it will also be hard for parties at home to implement. I think we've already heard the elements that are required from parties in order to implement Article 6. It goes from participation requirements to finding proper arrangements for tracking the ITMOs. There's reporting elements, actually, an abundance of these. And so, maybe in contrast to the CDM, where the role of host parties was not inevitably very active, this has changed here. There are a range of responsibilities and things you have to do in order to be able to participate in markets. And I think this course provides a contribution for helping people to figure this out. There's also something that goes beyond just like the mechanical things you have to do, such as reporting, such as tracking. What has changed with the decision in Paris, in Paris and then thereafter in Glasgow, when we finally were able to adopt the Article 6 guidance, or at least its first big part, is that the implication of deciding to participate in Article 6 are very different for host parties as compared to the CDM. If you decide to authorize something in the context of Article 6, be that 6.2 or 6.4, this will have a direct effect on your implementation of your NDC. The things we have adopted in Glasgow and that are anchored in the Paris Agreement is that double counting has to be avoided between parties. And if you authorize, that means you will add emissions back onto, well, you will add ITMOs back onto your inventory emissions, because these ITMOs being, you know what ITMOs are, right? They are used by someone else, and they can only be claimed by one entity in the end. And so I think this is probably the even more significant element that countries have to understand. It's one thing to do the reporting, it's one thing to figure out a tracking way, but actually the most significant is to understand the relationship between your engagement in markets as a country, as a host party, and your NDC. And it's not always easy. And we can tell you, because we've been trying to launch some initial engagements, and it is puzzling sometimes, it is new, and so it's also natural that this takes time. But I think all of that warrants even more the launch of what we do today. This course is one contribution, certainly not a sufficient contribution, but like a small contribution in the range of activities that we heard from the UNFCCC Secretariat that is already being launched. I think what's different about it and why we appreciate it particularly, I think we heard from William just now, there were regional workshops held. So if I happen to be in the one region that maybe hasn't had the workshop yet, or I was sick the day when the workshop was held, what's cool about this is you can access it anytime. And you can access it from wherever you are, right? And so I think this is what also convinced us, just in the value proposition of this course, that anyone, be that a private actor, a governmental actor, can use the contents of this course to get a better understanding, a first better understanding, and then probably you have to go beyond. And it is an ongoing thing also in the Article 6 negotiations to figure out and provide guidance through the different mechanisms that we have in the negotiation room and the 6.4 supervisory body and so on. to fine-tune these capacity-building efforts over time, but we acknowledge that we are just at the start, and that this is new, and so this takes time, and has to be perfected as we go along. And I think I'll stop there, and thank you, and look forward to the discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. I think you made it very clear that capacity building is needed. The more, the better. And a course that is accessible from everywhere is probably a huge asset to participants in the market. But now turning to Niels, Article 6 capacity building is also relevant in the context of private sector. And I would like to hear from you, and I think the audience also, why it is so important for the private sector to learn about Article 6 before they engage in Article 6 activities.
Thank you, Alexandra. Hello, everyone. You hear me okay, even if I'm not lean? No, I should lean. I'm leaning down. Yeah, so I'm Niels Westling from the Swedish Energy Agency, and Alexandra's question to me was, how is this important also for project developers? And I joined the Swedish Energy Agency 3 years ago, and has since then been involved in our efforts to build a pipeline of Article 6 activities. And so I've been in contact with quite a few activity developers. And I think when we started our Article 6 efforts, back when I was new at the agency 3.5 years ago, we thought of capacity building as something particularly directed towards host country governments. My institution has 20 years of experience from CDM markets, and I think we thought at the time that we knew everything that needed to be known. I think we've changed our minds quite a bit since then. I think host country governments have often been more informed than us and more prepared to create the sort of institutional frameworks, etc., that is needed for Article 6, whereas we didn't think of that until more recently. So, to your question, it is highly needed, I think, even for acquiring country governments, and definitely also for private sector entities. And one example from our work is that we launched a call for proposals back at the COP in Madrid in 2019. So we wanted to start working on real concrete Article 6 activities, and so we asked the market, basically, send in your proposals. And so they did, and that kick-started various discussions with many companies, engineers, innovators, CEOs, who had fantastic project ideas. And I think that process made us realize how different Article 6 is from the CDM, and how much more we needed to do, and how much more project developers need to do to make Article 6 work. And not surprisingly, we're now in the end of 2022, and there is still, I mean, we're basically in the same phase. We're still trying to get activities up and running, and I think that's true for our Swiss colleagues as well. So I kept having these discussions with activity developers. You know, they're eager, they're competent, they have great projects. They say, we can build this, we can implement that. Let's start now. And also, I mean, we have government funding, we have the money. So what was lacking actually? Well, I think we started to realize that what's lacking is the institutional arrangements, the rules. I mean, now, back in 2019, we didn't have a rule book. We do now, that's a big step. But now countries need to put these things in order, which are, they're hard to pinpoint, because what are they really? But they're processes, they are paperworks that need to be done. Basically, we need to know what we're doing. And Simon pointed to I mean, the I think main issues here, which are still host and acquiring country related, such as authorizations and corresponding adjustments. From the perspective of private entities, I still think they need to grasp what that means and what that means in practice for them. And I guess I can't be concrete enough today still to sort of say what that is, but that's where I think this course comes in. It can help us have a common view on what needs to be done and how to do it. Yeah, and having said that, that's why we're so happy that this course has been developed. We're very happy to be partners. I said it already, but I'll say it again. I think currently there is money to be spent. There is technologies that need to be rolled out. There is a huge need for these technologies and activities to take place. I think capacity is the bottleneck right now, and I hope that this course can help ease that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Niels. So while parties are setting the scene, I would say that private sector will probably really drive Article 6 and make it a success. And we clearly heard from first experiences from Niels how important the participation of private sector will be in the future. So now to our last speaker that is here in person, Kentaro. We are now diving a bit deeper into the monitoring requirements of Article 6 and invite you to speak about why capacity building for monitoring is so critical for the success of the implementation of Article 6.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. So, okay. Thank you very much, everyone, and good afternoon. My name is Kentaro Takahashi. I'm the Deputy Director of the Climate and Energy Area, IGUS. So first of all, thank you very much inviting us to this very important event, and we are very happy to have a collaboration with UNDP. And why we joined this collaboration is from 2020, we have just started our capacity building for our bilateral partner country. So government Japan, we had a collaboration with a 24 partner country, and although we didn't have a Article 6 rule in 2020, but we just started to the capacity building for how to reporting the cooperative approach. So today I just want to share our experiences. So from 2020 we have just started the mutual learning program, and the purpose of this mutual learning program is we would like to promote more understanding of the Article 6 in the partner country, and our activity mainly we had a main exercise through the online course, and I think the 3 meeting and also some exercise we provided for the partner country, especially for government official. So far the Thailand and Chile, Indonesia and Mongolia, Bangladesh, so far they joined our program, and now still discussing the outline of the reporting, including the initial report regular information, but based on the current draft text, so we just developed the exercise for further understanding of the then. So this is just take pictures and because of time difference amongst all partner countries, we always had a quite challenging how to set the time for capacity building. But everybody joins through this mutual learning program, and we had a very good understanding on the Article 6, especially for reporting issues. As many of the speakers already mentioned, I think the interpretation had a very much different from the countries. So, but maybe through this kind of exercise, we can have a very good understanding in the future. So, what is the lesson learned in I think the institutional arrangement is a very quite important And also, as you can see, practical exercise are very helpful for their future understanding. Because in the negotiations, several parties mentioned they don't have any clear picture how to put in the information, but this is a very good exercise for in futures. So this is just the final information. The government of Japan will launch Article 6 implementation partnership, and the next week on 16th from 1 to 2 p.m. at the Japan Pavilion, we will launch this partnership event. And thank you very much for joining UNDP and UNFCCC as well as Switzerland, Sweden to support, and we try to increase the number of the organization and countries. So if you have interest, please join us. And so through this kind of our experiences, we really want to contribute online course for UNDP. And I think that we can share our experiences to develop some guidebook as well as some manual for the future. So that's all, and thank you very much for your attention.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kentaro. So while monitoring is clearly very complex, the success of the GCM gives hope for Article 6. So I think we will manage it. But there is now another speaker, I hope at least, a virtual speaker. Okay. Lorena from NEEN, the technical developer of the course modules. And she will join us virtually today to give us a sneak preview of Module 5 on the Learning for Nature platform of UNDP. Okay, Lorena is already here. Thank you, Lorena. Over to you.
Thank you, Alexandra. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Lorena Covacango. I'm part of the team that developed the content of the course and also the design of the course. Let me share my screen, please. Well, as Alexandra already told you, this course is composed of 6 modules. I'm going to explain Module 5, as you can see here. Well, Module 5 is about governance, regulatory, and institutional frameworks that are needed to implement in order to operationalize Article 6.2 activities. To start, in every module you will have this table of content on the left side of the slides, so users will be able to find the main topics that are going to be addressed during the module. As the second slide, we offer a glossary where users will be able to find the definitions of the most relevant words that are going to be used during the module. After that, we will have the sections that have the content per se of the module. This module, for example, has 3 sections. The first section is a summary of an strategy for Article 6.2 participation. In this course, it is proposed a strategy of 6 steps, as you can see here. This strategy, how to implement it and how to design the strategy is explained or is discussed in Module 3 and Module 4. So this is a summary. And as you can see here at the last step of this strategy, it is the design and implementation of the frameworks, which is precisely the second section of this module. As part of the Article 6.2 framework, we have 2 main topics: the design and implementation of an institutional setup. This setup could be composed of an oversight body, which is the body that we're going to oversight all the activities that could be composed by several ministries that are working in Article 6.2 activities. And the other unit that it is proposed to have is an Article 6.2 unit that will be the direct responsible for implementing Article 6.2 framework. As you can see here in this slide, in certain, for certain slides, we provide some examples. If you click here, we'll be redirected to another slide. This is an example about Georgia. And here we explain briefly how Georgia is, the institutions that Georgia is implementing to operationalize Article 6.2 activities. After that, the second main aspect to be part of Article 6.2 agreement are the implementation processes. These implementation processes, we explain here 6 of them, and we provide the most relevant information for them. And for example, in the process for ITMOS issuance, in many slides, users are going to be able to find these icons, these fingers, and with a ribbon and a finger. When you find these icons, it means that you will be able to find more information in previous slides. So this slide is related to module 3, for example, here. And when you find these little hands here, you can hover over the element that the hand is pointing, and you will find more information. Well, you can go through all the processes just by clicking on the table of content. This will be available over the whole module. And as the second section, for this module, we describe briefly how important it is for countries to integrate Article 6.2 framework into national policies and regulations. We talked briefly about that. We offer another example here. That is about the World Bank's map readiness tool. If you want to know more details about this tool, we also have included links that redirect the users outside to websites outside this presentation, like this one here. We also talk about how important it is to have funding sources to implement processes and to maintain processes working over the time. And as the last slide, we have the conclusions. These conclusions are sort of a summary that highlights the most relevant or the key points that were discussed during this module specifically. Well, that would be all from my side. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Lorena, for joining. I think it looks amazing. But before we close, I would like to open the floor for questions.
Thank you. Is it on? Do you hear me? Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Kaya Weltner, I work for Perspectives Climate Group on Article 6 capacity building and implementation. And I really enjoyed all of your presentations. I have one question. Well, you were mentioning I really like this, point on everybody's learning in this process. It's not a transfer, it's actually a learning exercise. And a learning exercise for, not only for the agencies involved on the national level, but also for private sector and many stakeholders. So my question with regards to the course is, do you have a specific target group in mind, or do you, address these stakeholders broadly? So do you target it at the agencies, the host countries, or is it really also a broader exercise?
Yeah, excellent question. I think we can all briefly respond to it. Can you hear me? I think it works. So no, our target group is, as we mentioned in the beginning, it's really public and private sector. In the host country, it's of course the Ministry of Environment, who is strongly involved in the implementation of Article 6, but of course all other ministries that are involved in the context of the NDC implementation. So sectoral ministries will be part of capacity building as well, but the lead partner is the Ministry of Environment. But maybe, Simon, you can also...
Well, I think I already said, I think it's for so many, right? And I think it's, of course, I think the main intent here, as we've all also discussed this in the context of host parties and their new responsibilities, like is really, as Alexandra mentions, to build these capacities within the different ministries. But then again, I think it's really equally applicable and valuable for so many private sector actors, be that a traditional project developer, be that a company that wants to interact with a traditional project developer. So, you know, it's really for everyone.
I can add that I was recently unaware of how open this course would be, and it made me very happy to see that it's free and it's open, and I have several in mind, especially private entities that I think will benefit hugely from a course like this. Also, this was the first snapshot that I saw of it, and I must say it looks very good. Well done, everyone. Not myself.
Thank you. I'm Susan Haitsa from Uganda. I'm working with Climate Action Network and registered with RCC Kampala. So my question is, will we, the civil society, benefit, those who are not working with the government, benefit from this course? As you realize, the private, the civil society and other sectors also work with the government to be able to deliver on the NDCs. And what would be the procedure for us to be able to access that? And then another thing is, will we be able to receive like if you have an email where which they use to contact us to inform us, will we be able to access the modules so that we can be able to see the content and be able to share with our organizations? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, and good to see you, and I hope we see you in RCC Kampala as well. The whole purpose of having this online is exactly what you just mentioned. If you note, once it is open, the registration will be online and everybody can access it. So yes, you will be able to see the modules. How it benefits you then depends on what angle you're getting in it from. It might be just for information purposes to see what exactly is this animal called Article 6, or it might actually enlighten you as civil society, and you start seeing how you can make a linkage between what the course modules are saying and getting a better understanding of Article 6.2, and see how you can get involved and how you can start talking to other partners with government or private sector to then be part of the climate action.
Just to add, the course is open from today, and there is a registration link on the registration page, but maybe can I ask you to scroll a bit down so that you can take a picture and then you can register there. But it is open from today for registration. And the course can be taken only from 6th February onwards. So this is the first day when the course can be taken, but it is open for registration. And all registered participants will be updated and kept informed about the next steps. Okay, it doesn't work, but anyway, we will share information widely. It cannot be changed. Is there...
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mr. Fidelis from Nigeria. Okay, I work with the Department of Climate Change, Ministry of Environment in Nigeria. Now, transiting from the Kyoto Protocol to Article 6 comes with a lot of gap. How do we bridge this gap? How do we build capacity? Because most countries are yet to understand the operationalization of this Article 6. Especially the 6.2 or 6.4. How do you bridge this gap?
Well, I just say it's a process. It's a process that's currently ongoing in the negotiation room. It's a process that I think just has to happen in the different host parties. And by the way, I just wanted to say it's fantastic how many people clap and scream in enthusiasm for this course. I'm not sure it's actually for the course. But no, I mean, I think you pose a very general question. I'm giving a very general answer. And I point like also just to the decision of the 6-4 supervisory body, you know, on all levels. I think on the actual negotiations at the CMA, on the implementation of 6-4 through the supervisory body, on the capacities built in the host parties, on the capacities and the understanding built by the private sector. It's a process. And this is just a small contribution to maybe facilitating this.
Okay, so thank you for the insightful presentation. It was really good. And it's also good that we know about the framework and we go to basics for the Article 6 cooperative approach. Actually, I have two questions. So I'm Zubair with the party delegation of Tunisia on Article 6. So the first question is about the capacity building initiatives made by parties for the for the whole Article 6. So is it it will be specific now? Is it a done for you cooperative, or is it a done with you cooperative with the host parties? So we know that we understand that we are in the learning by doing process. So we work on a cooperative approach between the host party and parties. So is it really done for you? So we had this capacity building program that we will work on cooperation, or is it done with you? So in more participative approach. Thank you.
I had a little trouble hearing your question, actually. Okay. Could you repeat the question?
So the question is on capacity building. Do you hear me clearly now?
Yes, now,
okay.
much better.
So it was on capacity building initiative by parties for the host parties. So is it a done for you programs, or is it a done with you approach in as a participative approach?
Thank you very much for your questions. And from our experiences, we have a bilateral cooperations between Japan and 24 partner countries. So always we are working together. And from our side, we have some interpretation on how to reporting. But on the other hand, the host party side, they also have a very different view. So we always try to have a common understanding when we develop the exercise through the mutual learning program. So I think our target is both sides, our side as well as host party side. So otherwise, maybe we have a very different understanding.
Maybe to add, this course is very general. It's a course that describes the requirements as per the Paris Agreement guidelines. Yeah? But of course, there are additional requirements when you enter into a cooperation with a bilateral partner, and these requirements will be discussed and detailed in bilateral negotiations. For example, negotiations between Switzerland and the host country usually take 1 year. So this is a long process where a lot of lessons learning is happening, and I think on both sides.
Just to add to that, I think, I mean, we go into various discussions and negotiations with host parties or host country governments, and it's a process that is, give and take, and you sort of learn by doing. And I think the value of a course like this is well, as Simon said previously, it's probably a pretty small contributor, but still something that contributes to common understanding and common ground. And I think that's very needed.
Good afternoon. I'm Solani Mohango. I'm the country director for WWF in Mozambique. Thank you very much. Every time we come to these COPs, there's always discussions around negotiations. So it always gives me a pleasure when I see people developing and launching products that at least starts getting us towards doing the actual work. I went into the site for the registration, and I saw that it's in English. So my question is there an option for other languages? If not, are you planning to do that, and when can we expect it to be in other languages as well?
Yes, this is also an excellent question. Thank you for this question. We are planning to translate the course into French and Spanish. And hopefully it can be launched together with the English version on 6th February. So it should be in 3 languages.
We are being kicked out. We've run out of time. But just to let you know that this was just a flavor, because Article 6 is a huge animal. So the UNFCCC is organizing a side event this evening on the full work program on capacity building in event room Amon from 6:30 up to 2000 hours this evening. So you can all join so that you can get to hear more about what's happening. Jonah. I think that's it. Thank you very much for coming, and we hope to see you this evening.